Lifeboat. Charlie Mullins, how are you, my brother? It's good to see you. Well, we're going to see how we get this thing rolling. Bear with me for a sec, folks. I am still flying old school, as Mark is still feeling just a little bit under the weather. We have a good deal of faith that Mark is going to be feeling better here shortly. Charlie, good to see you. I should be sending out a blast to everybody over at the Lifeboat, which I didn't have a chance to do. It was a really odd morning, people, as far as getting the feed up and running. We've had a few issues with YouTube. It's kind of odd. So when I went to go live, it didn't want to let me. It kept telling me that I needed to access the camera and that this needed to happen and that needed to happen. And the truth is, I had already done all of those things. So I have spent the last, I don't know how long, in direct panic mode. But it seems that we are up and running now. Chili Manser, good to see you, brother. So, as I told you in last night's video, there was a death in the family, and I'll touch on that here in a few minutes. Brandon, good to see you. But so I went to Florida on this vacation. It was great to have an opportunity to recharge my batteries a little bit. And during that time, I also had an opportunity to spend a decent amount of time discussing, sort of the shape and the, kind of the future of where we're going on the boat. Definitely a live channel. I mean, it's really... Chi-Chi, great to see you. It's definitely obvious that we are a live channel. And what we are, more than anything else, is a resource for people that want to come and talk about subject matters pertaining to living their best life and to sobriety, obviously. Sobriety is the base of what we talk about here, but there's so much of what comes up that... I mean, the basic nuts and bolts of sobriety are the exact same basic nuts and bolts that everybody deals with on a daily basis if they want to live a happy and productive life. For us, it's just more of a challenge, but it's all of the same issues. And it's been an interesting journey so far. And the more that we sort of start to develop our personality as a channel, the more we realized that in no uncertain terms, this is a live channel. We may do some videos here in the future that where we do one subject matter maybe once a week or something like that. But it has been decided that we will be going live in the morning and then at night. And it's going to create some challenges, and I know that you will all grow with me. Seventh says, I was lurking. We don't use that term anymore. Seventh? Come on now, you were observing. We don't lurk. So yeah, there'll be some growing, I wouldn't say pains, but there'll be some things that we need to learn, because doing what we're doing now is really kind of charting new territory. There aren't a lot of channels, if there are any, that are doing what we're doing. I have a gentleman that I work with. I shouldn't say that I work with. I have a gentleman that consults me, who has been very, very successful in YouTube. He is rapidly approaching the gold play button, which is, of course, the 1 million subscriber mark, which is huge. And he has sort of helped point the boat in the right direction a few times. He's always allowed me to ring him up and ask him some opinions. And his when I told him that I was going to be going live twice a day as opposed to once a day, in his infinite wisdom, because he's a very wise person, he said to me, "Are you an idiot?" The reason being, he was looking at this purely from a business standpoint. And folks, I will tell you that from a business standpoint, doing 2 live feeds a day is basically business suicide, because I think I've explained this before. When we go live, like we're doing right now, YouTube is not going to be running any ads on this. And the reason they're not is, for all they know, I'm going to start dropping F-bomb after F-bomb. I'm going to start talking about politics. I'm going to start doing all of these things that sometimes advertisers don't want to put money on. right? So there needs to be a period of time for our partners at YouTube to take a look at what we do prior to deciding to run ads on it, which is how monetization happens. So once I put this up and I post it, about 2 days later, YouTube will give us the thumbs up on it. And then at that point, they can start to run ads. Well, very few people go back and watch a live feed 2 days after it happens, right? All of the views that you're going to get on a live stream usually happen when you're live, or within the first 24 hours if you have an audience in other countries, that don't make the live feed but still want to watch it. They'll pop on there, a little bit later. But so, excuse me, from a business standpoint, this is the stupidest thing you could possibly do on YouTube. However, we've never really been a business. As much as people like to say that we are, really what this has always been about has been about the lifeboat audience. It's been about the crew, and the interaction between captain and crew is really something that takes place differently when we're live. Obviously, it's a much better give and take process when we have gone live. When we go any other way, you just don't get the interaction. The interaction ends up taking 3 or 4 days. And if someone is right at the point of, hey, I want to use, 3 or 4 days is probably not a great response time, sort of back and forth. So it's gotten to a point where it has to happen this way. Sorry. Okay, so every once in a while something will pop up on the banner up there. So from a business standpoint, it's awful. However, everybody seems to like it from the audience standpoint, and that's why we're here. No apologies. This is not a channel that, even if we get to silver play buttons and gold play buttons, it's never going to be about this being a business. That wasn't what the dream was. When I had a dream of putting this thing together, it was never, hey, I think I'll drive a Ferrari because we're going to figure out a way to help people try to get sober and give them a place where you can come and talk about things without people staring at you, right? If you go to a legit, normal, run-of-the-mill, if you go to a place like an AA meeting or an NA meeting or any of the church groups or anything where you do a live, interactive kind of a meeting where people talk about sobriety, there's a lot of eyes looking at you, right? And if you've ever been to one of those meetings, what's the first thing that happens? Guy gets up, he does a little bit of a presentation, he talks about horror stories from when he did a lot of drugs or she did a lot of drugs or whatever. And then one at a time, people get up and they talk about things. And I would stand up and I would say, hi, my name is Tommy, I'm a heroin addict. Well, there's a lot of people that never are going to feel comfortable standing up and saying that. So the first time a lot of people go to those meetings, they go, oh, I can't do this. It's a bad paradigm. If you think about it, right? What's the number one fear of all people on the planet, according to science, is public speaking. But group therapy is public speaking, right? And we don't just want you to speak. We want you to open up. We want you to talk about the things in your life that are really dragging you down. I want you to talk about things from your past that are really painful. What a great concept, right? It's not. It's a terrible concept. Here on the Lifeboat, you see people pop in and they start to leave comments about very personal things. You know why they're comfortable doing that, right? Because they're not standing up in front of the entire group. No one is staring at you. We're also blessed that this is not a judgmental crowd. We have got that going for us, but that's you. That's, that is the crowd that this has attracted are people that are very non-judgmental, and that's a tribute to the crew. But the way that this is designed works, and it only works live. So, welcome to the inaugural morning live feed here at the Lifeboat. I am your captain, Tommy, and I am really pleased to announce that this is the future of the boat, that this is how we're going to be doing what we do. Whether or not this ends up being a full 1 hour live feed each and every day, those things are going to be determined as we go. From a standpoint of creating content, I'm not particularly worried about doing 2 hours a day because this really isn't the same thing as content creation. The reason being, I get here and I talk for a little while. Justin and Lucinda Roberts, hey, great to see you. I get here and I talk for a little bit, right? And then what happens is people in the group start to shoot things back and forth, right? Chi-Chi will come and she'll start talking about how there's some issues with the water in her house, right? The challenges that creates, or anything else. Hey, Charlie Murphy. I knew that was going to catch. I didn't mean to do that to Charlie, by the way. That really was an accident. I hadn't slept in a day or two when I said Charlie Murphy instead of Charlie Mullins, but I think he's probably Charlie Murphy for the rest of his life. I'm sorry, Charlie. It was a legit accident. But so as I was saying, what happens is you guys start to bounce things off of each other, and after a little bit of an intro, I go to squirrel mode, and I start reading things, and at that point, I'm no longer creating content. I'm just talking, and I'm answering questions. You people really become the content creators. Make sense? So I'm not particularly concerned about trying to create stuff for you each and every day, because the problems and the concerns that you bring to the group are going to be what creates the content, if that makes sense. At night, it'll be a little bit different, because we do need to make sure that some of the videos are not just us all talking, because we do need to propagate, right? We do need to make this get bigger if we want to help more individuals. So for that reason, there does need to be some place where the thumbnail matches whatever I'm talking about, so that as YouTube pushes this out into the metaverse, right out there, that we can bring new people on board. We do want to bring this message to as many people as possible. The more people that get on board the lifeboat, the bigger the message gets, and the bigger the message gets, the stronger the message gets, the more people we're helping and affecting. And that's really been the dream and the goal. So that's where we're heading. I hope that all makes sense. On that subject, today what I wanted to talk about, and again, I will open up and tell you a little bit more about what's going on with the family, because that's relevant, and I've always promised to share what's going on. But before I do, talking about this growing, right? Something happened over the course of the time that I was down in Florida that was fascinating, and it really, thank you, Cody English, I appreciate that. And it really got me thinking about what it is that we do here. As you people know, I was a skier, right? I mean, I was really into it. I wasn't just a guy that skied. I mean, I was a skier, and it was sort of the defining portion of my life for a while, and did some professional stuff and whatever. So I was there when snowboarding really became very popular, and there were people who fought it. There was people along the way that as snowboarding started to be allowed at ski areas, there were people that really had a problem with it. And their biggest complaints were usually that, they tended to push all of the snow off of the mountain, because, skiers sort of line up like this. A snowboarder never really points directly downhill, right? They kind of stay at an angle like this, because you're always on one edge or another. You're never sort of free floating. And the process of doing that sometimes pushes some snow off, and they complained a lot about that. I never had a problem with snowboarding. I thought it was really cool, and I thought it was great for skiing. It really made skiing sort of step up their game. If they wanted to compete with all of the people that were now joining a new sports, skiing had just sort of sat back and, as an industry, hadn't done much. Well, when snowboarding came along, skiers, the companies that made skis changed them, right? They made them parabolic so that they were wider at the top and the bottom, and they shaped them. And in doing that, skis became shorter, and the tricks that people could do, all of a sudden they had front and back. So people were skiing backwards, and a lot of really incredible things happened because of it, and I loved it. What I didn't love was snowboarders. Before anybody starts yelling at me, you had to have been there in the beginning. There was a certain attitude. If you learned to ski, there was an excellent chance you learned from your parents. So when you were, 2 or 3 years old, people put you on skis. Mom and dad put you on skis, and they took you out and they taught you how to ski. And they taught you a lot about the whole philosophy of the mountain and all of that. Well, snowboarders learned how to snowboard usually from friends. So they didn't have somebody saying, hey, you don't do that. That's disrespectful. What's the matter with you? There wasn't that sort of educational process. And what happened is you got this group of people that there was a lot of the, hey, dude, and, it was like a Cheech and Chong environment with the brand new snowboarders. There was a whole new lingo, and dudes talk like this, and it really turned off a lot of people in the beginning. Now, It's no longer like this. The reason is people who learn to snowboard now are learning from their parents who first started snowboarding, and now it really makes absolutely no difference whether or not you're skiing or you're snowboarding. The same attitude is pervasive now across the entire industry, which is awesome, right? Okay. The reason that I bring this up is very oftentimes the people that love something turn people off to what they love. You follow? I had a conversation with someone while I was down in Florida, and this individual was talking about religion. This isn't a religious channel, but this is an illustration that you have to hear. And they were complaining about certain aspects of religion, and the religion that they were talking about was Christianity, and they basically they were not going to be believers because of certain things. And the more I listened to them, when this conversation was over and they said, what do you think? Are you offended or whatever? I said, of course not. You know what I mean? I'm always open for conversation. I'm not a guy that gets offended super easy. But what I realized at the end was they didn't have a problem with the religion. They had a problem with the people who followed the religion, right? They didn't have a problem with Christ. They had a serious problem with Christians. The reason I bring this up, people, is we want the boat to get bigger. And more than anything, I think everybody here really wants that, right? We're all on the same page as far as that goes. But what we find here, as in with so many other things, is that very oftentimes, hey, hold on, time to squirrel. Cody English says, I shouldn't be here when I'm drinking. You're wrong. You're wrong. Sorry. You should definitely be here while you're drinking. My goodness. The message that we have is that you don't quit quitting. If somebody doesn't come here until after they're sober, then what are we here for? We become a rah-rah club that pats people on the back for getting sober. No, we want people here in the life. We want people who are drinking, people who are using drugs, people who are getting high to come here and listen to the message. The greatest stories we have, Cody, the best success stories that we have already on the lifeboat are from people that came here and they may not have commented while they were drinking. They might have just, what was the term? Observed, right? They might have just sat back and listened, but they saw the interplay between all of the people on the crew and they heard the things that people were saying. And the next thing you know, it took, right? The hook sort of got buried. And the next thing you knew, we had people that weren't just sober, but they were on fire to be sober. They wanted to live their best life. I promise you, the last thing in the world, if we got to a point where this channel says, we don't want you here because you're drinking, I'll turn this thing off and I'll leave. Because the dream of what I was trying to build will have been so far pushed away that there's no point anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course we want you here if you're drinking. Now, if you're looped and you're saying stupid things because of it, that might not be the best. But if you feel like you got 4 beers in you and you might say something that you shouldn't say, then just sit back and listen. But we're never turning somebody away from the door of the boat, right? Because they've had something to drink or because they're under the influence of drugs. We're all addicts, right? Everybody here was a drug addict at one time or another, or they know someone. They were so close to that they're here to support. But we're all in this boat together. Do you know how many times I fell down? Seriously, what makes this impressive that I have this channel? What makes it impressive that Mark is here with this channel? Both of us had tons of relapses. That's really the defining characteristic of addiction, brother. It really is. Relapse is such a part of addiction. And this, by the way, I may be squirreling, but I'm absolutely dovetailing right back into what we were talking about. Because, hold on one sec. I got knocked down below the bottom 3 days ago. Yeah, I'm drinking, trying to figure out how to start climbing again. I'm miserable, not liking it. I'm not tough enough. No, Cindy, it's not that you're not tough enough. My goodness. If it was about being tough enough, I don't need to be here. Seriously. This has never been about tough enough. It's never been about willpower. Tough enough and willpower are the exact same expression. You understand? No, this isn't about willpower. Willpower alone will never get it done. It has nothing to do with that. Your challenge, Cindy, and you've been very open about it, your challenge is in communicating with people and talking to them, you get some anxiety that is associated with that. So for that reason, when you feel like you're getting ready to use, you have a difficult time coming and saying, hey, this is where I'm at, and that's going to be your challenge. But my gosh, it's got nothing to do with willpower. It doesn't. My willpower is insane. It really is, people. If you want to learn to do a backflip on skis, you're going to get hurt a lot in order to do it. And I just kept getting up, and I just kept trying until I had it mastered. My brother Johnny decided he was going to run a marathon, right? Within 120 days, he ran a marathon. He trained at sea level in Houston, Texas for a little less than 100 days. And then he went to Omsk, Siberia. So he trained at sea level and then went to about 9,000 feet. You know the difference in oxygen, right? Between sea level, where there's so much oxygen it's ridiculous, and 9,000 feet where it's getting real thin. And he ran a marathon that he trained for in less than 4 months. And he was not a runner. This isn't a guy that ran his whole life and then said, I think I'll run a marathon. No. Johnny just said, I'm going to run a marathon. It was to raise money for orphanages and crippled children in Russia. True story. He doesn't talk about it much. But he went out there. I was with him the first day he started training. He ran that marathon on one thing only: willpower. He literally beat himself close to death to finish that marathon. But he finished it because he has willpower like nobody alive. He eats 36 Carolina Reapers. When your body screams after the first nibble, hey, stop, this hurts, he just continues to go. You know what does that? Willpower. And people will say, yeah, tolerance, whatever. No. Tolerance is something you build because you have willpower to burn yourself. No one I've met in my life has more willpower than my brother. But it wasn't enough to help him stop drinking because it's got nothing to do with it. Nothing. You understand? It's not. Your brain is telling you that you have to do this, right? You got willpower, right? I have willpower. Do me a favor. Stop breathing for the next 20 minutes. That's a challenge, isn't it? I shouldn't have said that. Stop breathing for the next 4. Just hold your breath. You can do it. There's no chance, right? Why? Why is there no chance? Why can't you hold your breath for 4 minutes? And people can say, well, you'll die. No, you won't. No, you won't. You won't start to even experience brain death until about 6. So why can't you hold your breath for 4 minutes? Because what's going to happen is your brain is going to override and say, no, you need that oxygen. Okay, you know where this comes from? This comes from the very bottom of your brain. I hate this term, but they call it the reptilian part of the brain. The reason being, we actually share this part of our brain even with reptiles. It is the oldest part of our brain. Right? The gray matter, the really cool stuff that makes us able to have conversations like this and able to build the platforms and the things that we're on. All of that takes place way up here in the front of the brain. And that is the newest part of our brain in terms of the evolution of the brain, right? But the part that controls your heart beating and your eyes blinking, you can't control that, correct? Okay. What if I told you that the part of your brain that is ruling your addiction is the same part of your brain that's making your heart beat? I'm not making this up. So when you sit and you talk about, well, I'm just not strong enough. Well, I'm not strong enough to hold my breath for 5 minutes either. I'm not. Because a part of my brain that handles that can't be controlled by willpower. Okay, so where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us in a couple of places that you can go. One is you turn that willpower over to a power that is higher than yourself. Some people have a struggle with that, right? For some people, and this really benefits them, they hand that power over to God. They believe that God can help restore them to sanity, right? You've heard it in the 12 steps. Then there are people who don't like that as a concept. So I will suggest this. Your best efforts, no matter what you're trying to do, right? Build me a boat. Now go do it alone. Be very difficult, correct? Now, go build me a boat and pick 6 people from the crew to go with you and help you build a boat. Think you're going to be more successful alone or with 6 other people? If you get 6 people that are all pulling in the same direction, what ends up happening is you're going to be more successful, yes? Okay, well, that's exactly the principle. So your higher power can be, or a power greater than yourself, can be a group of people that are all helping you. What needs to happen is when you feel that desire, which is run by back here, right? When that, I need a drink, right? I need to drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink. Come to people and say, hey, this is what's going on in my brain. And an amazing thing happens. When all of the people who are there to support you say, no, you don't. You don't need that drink. Instead of having one voice in your head that is telling you exactly what you need, you got 6 voices outside your head that are saying, no, you can get through this. We're going to be here for you. We're going to sit. We're going to talk to you. We'll FaceTime. We'll do whatever we got to do, but we're going to get you through this. And the amazing thing, people, is that voice that's telling you you got to drink, it doesn't do that all day. It does if you're alone. And if you do nothing else and you just sit in your room all day, yeah, that voice will never shut up. But if by some chance, there was an opportunity for something to break up that silence and to start having voices that are external, override that voice that is internal, an amazing thing happens. You get through it. And the next thing you know, as these people sort of back away, what you find is all of a sudden, you got through. That's a learned behavior. Now your brain says, oh, wow, this can be done, right? This can be done. And once you realize something can be done, you realize how much that changes things. There's a great story of a guy named Roger Banner. Roger Banner broke the 5-minute mile, got into the 4s, right? It was said by the people who are in the know, the medical community back then said, the human body can't do it. It's not possible to run a 4-minute mile. No one's ever going to break the 5-minute mile. They honestly thought it might kill you. But there was this big rush. All these people were getting so close, right? Running a 5:01, running a 5 flat .06, whatever. And then what ended up happening was Roger Banner broke the 5-minute mile. By the way, there was the intelligentsia of the time said, if you're going to do this, you need to do it in a stadium. There's going to have to be thousands of people there because the roar of the crowd is what's going to push that person over the edge. And the weather better be perfect. It shouldn't be too cold. It shouldn't be too hot. And there better not be any wind. Because if you're running into the wind at all, that resistance is going to be just enough to make it so that can't happen. It's going to have to be perfect. Well, obviously, Roger Banner did it. And by the way, it had just finished raining, the track was wet, the wind was up, and there was a very small crowd of people there. But once he did it, within a year, about a half a dozen other people did it. Because once the human body, once the human being realizes that something can be done, there's no stopping them. All you got to do is get through that first part. Cody English just said, praying helps. You betcha praying helps. Do you know why? Mark Wages has said it 150 times, right? My partner talks about this all the time. How many things can take up this spot right here, right? Okay, let's put this there. Well, that's not going to work. I'd have to move that, right, in order to put that there. Your brain is the exact same way. There is not 2 things that can occupy your brain at the same time. Multitasking, have you ever heard Mark talk about this? It doesn't exist. I mean, yes, you can say there's 6 things I need to do today. But your brain is only going to handle one of them at a time. It's impossible for your brain to think 2 thoughts at once. That's a fact. So if we can stop your brain from saying, I need a drink, I need a drink, I need a drink. Well, if you're praying and you're in the process of talking to God or talking to someone who's trying to help you stay sober, but if you're occupying this spot with this, then there's no place for that thought, that negative, right? Remember ant? That's automatic negative talk. That's the little voice in your head, whether it's audible or not. I'm not saying you're insane. I'm not saying you're hearing voices, but it's that internal monologue that says, I can't do this. I'm going to relapse. I got to have a drink. I got to have a drink. But make no mistake, Cindy, it's not because you're weak. I'm not having that. You're never going to say that here again. Please. Because you're not. You're not. I know enough of your story to know you're not weak. But inner strength doesn't do anything. That's not enough. If that was enough, oh, thank goodness. Jacob Forrester, hold on. Occupational therapy is real. Social interaction and constructive use of time really does replace destructive use of time. I knew he was going to say something cool. Truthfully, Jacob always comes through and says something amazing. But there's no getting around this, people. There really isn't. This is 101, right? If you've ever been to college, you know that the first course that you take in anything is usually called 101, right? Well, this is Rehab 101. This is Sobriety 101. This is the most basic of all concepts when it comes to sobriety. It has nothing to do with willpower. This is a fallacy that everybody in society likes to propagate, right? Society says, well, if you just were stronger, this wouldn't be a problem. Cindy, I'm glad you're still here, and I'm glad that you heard what Jacob said and agree. Really. I'm glad that you didn't leave, because this is essential stuff. This really is 101. It has nothing to do with your willpower. If it was that easy, there doesn't need to be a lifeboat. There doesn't. Society would like to tell you that it's just because you're weak. That's what society has drilled into us forever. Well, of course he's an alcoholic. He's too weak to put the bottle down. It's got nothing to do with weak. Seriously. Boy, wouldn't it be great if it was that easy? We would just have a training course on how to build your willpower. Well, that's just simply not going to happen. Excuse me, people. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. Yeah, it's not a willpower thing. So glad that I read that. And getting back to Cody English. Cody, we want you here. If you're drinking, we want you here more than if you're not. I mean, there's a reason we don't judge people. You understand? And as I said, I squirreled something vicious, but that's where I was getting to on the early topic today. How very oftentimes, people who love something turn off everybody else around them. You understand what I'm saying? If your passion is sobriety, and that's really what it's about, and you think, I really want to help people get sober, and then somebody shows up here and you judge them because they're not sober, we're killing ourselves. And I'm not yelling at all of you because I haven't seen the name in the comment section today, but I got an email from somebody who said, I'm pretty sure so-and-so was drunk the other night when they were, in the live feed. The comments that they left. If that person is drunk, you shouldn't let them on the live feed. I almost had a heart attack. I really did. And I typed out the most vicious response. Unfortunately, because I had just done a video called Choose to be Beautiful, I deleted it. And then I wrote back and said, I don't think you thought this over very well before you sent it. If somebody is drinking, we need them here. If somebody is using and in the process of using every day, we need them here. And more importantly, they need to be here. More than anything, people who are using need to be here. I need help, but I am on a binge. Thanks. You know something? Binging is part of addiction, right? Absolutely it is. Listen to everything that is being said here today, Cody. Doesn't necessarily mean that the seed is going to sprout today. But if the seed takes root today, then we've won the lottery, right? The fact that you're here and you're listening, the question begs, why are you here? If you were really comfortable just living a life and being an alcoholic in the life, then you wouldn't be here, right? You could be watching some other video right now that would make you laugh, but you're not. The fact that you're here means that you want a different life. Might take a minute. It's okay. It's okay. It really is. And I don't want anybody on this boat to slip up. The longer that we're here and the more that we know each other, I think when newcomers come in, it's easier to judge a newcomer if they're not part of the crew, right? But you got to remember that what makes them part of the crew is showing up here. It's not, on your 50th live feed, and after you've left comments that, said this, or this, then we're going to accept you, and we're going to, showing up. You guys are great at welcoming people. Anytime somebody new gets here, you say, boy, welcome to the lifeboat. You're awesome at that. You are here because you want to change. It took time to create the addictions, so it will take time to end the addictions too. Chi-Chi, that's awesome. That's awesome. Somebody do me a big favor and get a good photo there on Sylvia Jacobs before you get rid of it. All right, get a screenshot. Well said, Chi-Chi is right. Joanna, that really sums it up, doesn't it? Chi-Chi, that was awesome. It's a long process to become an addict. It doesn't happen overnight. It becomes an ingrained thing that we just continue to do over and over and over again. So to make that go away is just, it's tough. This crew turning down an intoxicated person would be like an ER turning down you because you're injured. Now, wouldn't that be ridiculous? Well said, Jacob Forrest. Chili Mancer, thank you. That really does sum it up perfectly. I mean, if it's like, someone going to an oncologist who says, I can't treat you, you have cancer. Right? People, we're not here to cure the people who are already sober. And we're not here to celebrate that we're all sober alone. Right? We celebrate sobriety every single minute of every day we do. We pat each other on the back. But, the most exciting thing, it's not a guy that says I'm 5 years sober. The most exciting thing is a guy that says I quit today. Or a girl that says I'm going to quit tomorrow. Right? Those are the ones. And thanks, Tommy and everybody. Seriously. Well, that's why we're here, Cindy. And you know what? As far as the willpower goes and as far as the strength goes, Cindy, you've reached out and shared things with me that I know full well were difficult for you to share. Right? You've been open with us. You've been honest. And this is not something that's in your comfort zone. So the fact that you're doing what you're doing says wonders about your strength. This is, when you first got here, you said, I'm not sure I can handle live feeds. Right? They were almost too much for you. Good morning, Basketball Jones. They were almost too much for you. They gave you anxiety and panic attacks. Yet you're here. Huh? You're overcoming something that is very difficult for you. Why? Because you want to be sober. That screams strength. I mean, screams it. Now, it's going to be a journey. I've been beating this cliche to death, and I'm going to continually beat it to death because I think it's awesome. And I never heard anyone else say it, which makes me feel cool. But the usual cliche is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I'm here to tell you it's not either. Marathons end. You train for them, they happen, and then it's over. No. This is a journey that will last the rest of your life. It is what it is. So once you realize that, you're in the driver's seat. Cody English says, I don't want to hurt anyone and feel guilty for not being stronger. Thanks, people. You know what? We want you to be your best you. It's not lip service, people. It's not lip service to build a channel. If it was, this would be a video. It wouldn't be a live feed. This is really about exactly what's happening. Chi-Chi says, don't worry, Cody, you will find your reason to stop, and we will be here to support you when you do. Exactly. And you know what? Until you do, we'll be here to support you. What really makes this different is that, I love any time I get the chance to say this. When you make the decision to go sober, there's going to be an entire group of people here that are going to love and support you every step of the way. And until that day happens, there's going to be a group of people here to love you and support you every step of the way. It's what makes us so much different. I'm not the only sobriety channel out there, right? I may be the only guy that wears a silly hat. But what Mark and I do isn't unique in terms of the fact that there are channels that do exactly what we do. There just aren't channels that do it the way we do it. Most of them will absolutely bounce somebody off the channel if they're drinking, which is the dumbest thing in the entire world. The Swiss Vapor says, awkward situation, taking a shower and listening to you, Captain. Clumsy squirrel. That's how important you all are to me. Oh, that is funny. Hey, you know what, Basketball Jones? You're a great person. I cracked a joke, people, about something that he said, and that made me laugh. And I don't know, most of you probably didn't catch it. And you would have had to have seen the comment, but he said, the comment I left wasn't to be funny. He really has a difficult time watching people who are in the life. It's painful for him. And he corrected me and did it in a really loving way. There was nothing judgmental in the tone or anything else. But he said, I wasn't picking on that guy. I really was, what I was stating. Because what he said was, when you see this video and you realize that, you've made a jackwagon of yourself, it's going to be painful. And I thought, it's funny. He wasn't being funny. It's painful to watch somebody in the life. It really is. Especially if they're filming themselves and slurring and doing all of that. It's awful. It really is. Maybe we should name the new kitty Captain Clumsy Squirrel. Miss V, we'll have to see about that. We don't want to start this poor kitty off with a name like Clumsy Squirrel, unless it happens to be a really clumsy kitty, but we'll see. Each time you screw the cap on the bottle, it's a chance to do so for the last time. Seventh son, oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. It really is. What a cool thing to say. And he's right. Every time you put the cap back on, that's your opportunity to say, that's the last time I ever do this. Really. What a cool thing. Seventh, I'm really glad you said that. That is awesome. There's not going to be a puppy. Stop with that. People, I want the kitty to hang out on the desk every once in a while when we film. You couldn't put a dog on the desk. Dogs get big. You know what I mean? And they require all kinds of maintenance. You got to go outside and walk them and all of these things. Kitties are very, very self-sufficient, almost to the point of being snobbish. I love that about cats. But I was honestly kind of hoping that I was going to pull that off today. I don't think that that's going to be realistic, and I'll tell you why. In northern Nevada today, the weather is ugly. It's we're getting an awful lot of snow that is. An awful lot of rain that really wants to be snow. Basketball Jones says, sometimes I try to be funny in hopes that the people will take note, laugh it off, and proceed with change. But when it goes 180 degrees the opposite direction, it's not funny anymore. You're right, man. You're absolutely right. And it was good stuff. It really was. Your comment and then the after comment I thought was amazing. More like pour that awful stuff down the sink. That's what I did with the rest of the rum, vile drink. You know what? That's awesome. And it's the best case scenario. I would love to see everybody go that route. But if you pound it down the back of your throat and it's still the last time, we'll be just as happy. Brandon Galloway says, I fell down more than once, but I got up and dusted myself off. And he was honest about it every single time. He would come back to the group and he would say, hey, I screwed up last night. I love that. I love that. That's the first step. I really believe the first step is honesty. So you should take some solace in that, both Cody and Cindy. The fact that you came here, both of you, and said, hey, you know what? I'm using again. That's awesome. It really is. The number one characteristic, honestly, has to be lying. It's so easy for people to just lie about their use, and I did for years. I mean, you could catch me with it in my hands. I'd still lie about it. It's just kind of what addiction does. So for you to come here and to a place where we can't even see you and be honest, it says a lot. Slushy snow is common down here by the harbors. You know what? It's sort of hovering that it may end up freezing rain, which is always a little bit frightening too. But so the kitty's coming. It just may not be today. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. I've always loved that. I really have. It's we deny it to other people. It's really awful when you deny it to yourself. I'm going to start climbing that mountain again, choosing to make the right choices and not give up. That's right. That's it. Cindy, that's all we're looking for, right? And you're here, which says that, you're saying, I'm going to make that decision. You already did. You already did. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't. Right? There's a ton of places to hang out on YouTube. The fact that you're hanging out on the lifeboat means you already made that decision. That's awesome. Really. Yeah, Cindy, I love that one too. It's really funny stuff. And Charlie Murphy says, you can do it, Cindy. And you know you can. Everybody here is proof that you can do it. right? You absolutely can do it. Just for one day. Don't look any further than that. And in the beginning, I believe that that is absolutely the best plan. You do not have to worry about staying sober tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't even here, right? The 2 days you don't have to worry about, the only 2 days you never have to worry about, is yesterday and tomorrow. Somebody wrote, oh, who wrote it? Darn it. Somebody wrote one of the most beautiful things about living in the moment, the day. I'll bring it to tonight's live feed because I took a screenshot of it, but I don't remember who said it. I will get it. Fall 4 times and get up 5, Cindy. I love that. I think Paul Coelho, the author, wrote some really amazing books, all of them very, very uplifting stuff. And he was quoted, one of his most famous quotes is, it doesn't matter if, he said the key to life is to get knocked down 7 times and get up 8. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked up. Scotch Sonnet, great to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. And now that we've got this morning live feed, I would imagine it's going to be a little easier for Scotch Sonnet to pop in more often. Sonnet, if you hadn't heard, we're going to be doing this each and every day now in the morning. 1 second, 1 minute, 1 moment at a time. Walk by faith, not by sight. C.W. Terry, love that. Love that. And it's funny, people, how it starts, right? It really does start with just, I just need to get through the next 2 minutes, right? If I can get through the next 2 minutes, if I can get through the next 5 minutes. I mean, we white knuckle it a little in the beginning, don't we? It's just, there's that, especially that first week, Full of Hope says, great time for me in Ireland. Good, because you're not alone. We've got some other friends from Ireland as well. Hopefully we'll be seeing Niall pop in here on the mornings too. But we white knuckle it in the beginning, and the next thing you know, there's a day under your belt. And the first time that 24-hour mark is there, it's like huge. I did it. I did it. I got through a day, right? And then you come here and we'll celebrate that, and it sort of drills that into you, right? And then we get 2 days, and then the next thing you know, you're hitting a week. And when you get to a week, right, 2 weeks, a month. The big one, I'm telling you, the one for me that was really epic was that first year, because I had gotten close, but that first year mark, I really felt like I was getting there. Making each present moment the best it can be is how you build a great future, brick by brick. Does Jacob say anything that isn't epic? Honestly. Ultimately, there is only ever now to occupy it, so occupy it and relish it. I love that sonnet. It's true, people. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And yesterday it's already gone. There's no point in it. So the only thing that we got right now is right now. That's it. And choose to be beautiful and choose to stay sober. And if you're having a problem with either of those, reach out to the people on this boat, right? If you're not on the Facebook group over there, get on it. It's one more tool. It really is. That's what it is. It's a tool. And by the way, we're going to be, I know we've got a page on Instagram. We have not done things with it. And the reason is, when I went back on Instagram and I put up the lifeboat stuff, a ton of people who followed me, I had 7,000 or 8,000 followers on Instagram. And a bunch of them went, oh, there's a new page for Tommy, and they all ran over to it. I don't want them there. Sounds like a bad thing to say. I want a safe harbor. So it's taken a minute to figure out exactly how to put it together where, we're not going to accept everybody in there. If you want to be on the Instagram, feed over there, you're going to have to come and be invited. I repeat for Tommy, I accepted a long time ago and taught my daughter happiness is not a default setting. It's like a warm, sweet breeze. Stop, turn your face into it, and enjoy it when it happens. You know what? I love that. I really do. And I think when I say I want happiness as a default setting, I think what I mean, because you're right, it's not a default setting. I think I want it to be your first go-to thought, because happiness is most assuredly a decision. And very oftentimes, instead of making the decision to try to be happy, we choose another one. But you're right, it doesn't always happen. And there are going to be things that you can't get through with happiness. I lost a family member yesterday. That's a difficult thing. And honestly, at 91 years of age and very far removed from where I am in life, it's not as, hey, Joe Birdwell, great to see you, man. It's not as difficult for me as it is for her family, obviously. But they're not going to be joyous today. However, when they sit down, this woman was a believer. So they very much have faith that she is in a much better place. And for them, that's probably what they need to concentrate on. And in doing so, when my dad passed, for me, it was, you have to look at the best of everything. And when you lose your best friend, right? My dad really was my best friend. And when he passed, it was heart-wrenching. So you have to do things like, you know what? He didn't suffer. What a beautiful thing. He went in his sleep next to the woman that he loved. And they talked about it before he passed that night. It doesn't get any more beautiful than that. He knew that it was his last day. He told me that. He literally told me that this was going to be his last day on earth. And he was completely at peace. So you don't think about, I'm not going to see him anymore. And you don't think about the things that really tear you in half. You think about the things that are beautiful. And you're still going to have days. My mom said it. It was great. She said, it's almost like weather. There are going to be days when the sun shines and all you think about are the best memories. And then there are going to be days that it's stormy. And the fact that you miss him overrides the great memories, and the fact that, his passing was so peaceful. You start to think about all of the different things that, all of the different things that, there are going to be days it rains. There's no getting around that. There are going to be days that it rains. During those days, you have to try to focus on the things that bring peace. And maybe you're right, Hope. Maybe I'm wording it incorrectly. Certainly will not be the first time I'm wrong, and probably not the last. Scotch Sonnet says, "Still got my Paparoncini bottle." I love that. I love that. He was a really big fan of the. Speaking of the devil, Keith Andrews. From Keith from Andrews Pepper Patch, Keith Nichols, who made that. Really appreciate that. Swiss Vapor says, "Captain, I accomplished my task of saving somebody." Wow, what a cool comment. It's Joe Birdwell says, "It's crazy. You start remembering the little things that you forgot, like him showing you how to tie your shoes." You know what, Joe? You're right. We grew up in Vermont, and you get a ton of snow in Vermont, but it's very cold. It's not, so you don't get snow like you get in other parts of the country, and you'll get a 1 foot snowstorm, and then it will get so cold that you can walk on the top of the snow without crunching through. And when you're young and you don't have a whole lot of weight, you can walk on that snow forever without it breaking through. My dad obviously would break through. He was a big guy, but I remember him grabbing me in my snowsuit, and he would just, and throw me, and I would sort of zip around on the snow. And it was one of those things that I probably hadn't thought about forever. And out of the blue, one day I was sitting and looking at something on TV, and it wasn't even a snow, nothing on the, but I was watching something on TV, and I don't watch TV ever. I really don't. And like a light switch, I just remembered him zipping me along on the snow, and it put a tear in my eye, but the best kind, you know what I mean? I bet the Paparoncini bottle is still in the fridge. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Let me see something here. See if I can not. The Swiss Vapor says, "The lifeboat. Up comment. Please read." Yes, you accomplished the. So I'm waiting to hear how you accomplished that, Swiss Vapor, but it is a beautiful thing if you reach out and try to save somebody. You know what? Can I get a 5x5? Everybody hearing me? Because on my feed it looks like I have frozen. Oh boy. Further up. You know what, Swiss Vapor? I'm going to have to do it later because I do this with my finger. Thank you, guys. And every time I do that, Swiss Vapor, there's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to block somebody or take away their wrench because it's touch sensitive on the screen. I probably need to get to a point where I've got another way of doing this. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mark Wages. Okay. Vapor, do me a favor. You've got my email. Send it to me because I can't find it, and the last thing in the world I want to do is accidentally freeze somebody out, which I've done. Thank you very much, everybody on the 5x5s, and the loud and clear as a Mark came through as well. People, for the inaugural, right, for our launching of the official morning live chat, the number of people that have showed up for this live feed is astounding. Honestly, I was not 100% convinced that we would get a really solid turnout in the morning, but we have. This is really there's a lot of people on this live feed, and you know what? Thank you. That's awesome. It becomes one of those situations with what we do that I think I mentioned this on a live feed the other day. All right, Mark Wages, we will see you this evening. I mentioned this on a live feed the other day. I've started to go back through and you jot down the names of the people who are in the chat. And we maintain a very steady number, right? Normally on live feeds, you can go through and look and see when, you say something stupid and it goes from 30 people in the chat down to 5, or 15 or whatever. That really doesn't happen. So we maintain a steady number all the way across. And in the feeds, it's the same way, but it's not the same people. If all of the people that come to our live feeds came in the same night, it would be astounding, right? Now, if we were to say, well, we're only going to do one live feed a week, that would happen. We would get, a couple of hundred people that would all pop in at once, and it would be a bit overwhelming. It's great that Captain, send email to Captain. Understood. Follow orders. That's the spirit. So it's great that, honestly, it's great that we're always have a good sized crew, and it's probably great that everybody doesn't show up all at once. But it needs to be a resource for people who need to come here on that day. Cindy Lamb needed to be here today. Cody English needed to be here today. There are going to be days that aren't as important that somebody pops in here, but we want to make sure that the boat is here on the days that people do need it. And I think that's really the basis of what this channel is going to be. I think I really believe that that's what we're going to be looking at, right? Hopefully everybody agrees with that. Miss V says, helps me focus until evening time. I love it. I love it. That's really, and Mark and I talked about this. I think that came out of I did not know you were a veteran, Swiss Vapor. I have a very warm spot in my heart for all veterans. I really do. Really that means a lot. Thank you for your service to the world. So yeah, when Mark and I talked about this, and that was even a term that we used. We wanted the morning feed to be a time that people could come and get focus. Because let's be really honest, for most of us in recovery, we get up first thing in the morning and you have to start that day and you have to make the decision that today is the day I'm not going to drink. Today is the day I'm not going to drug, right? You make that decision first thing in the morning. Make the bed, brush the teeth, get a cup of coffee, and you start the day with, I am not going to use just today. And then for most people, as night rolls around, it gets a little bit more difficult, right? When it gets dark out, the demons, so to speak, tend to come out a little bit tougher in people. And it's super important that, we have an outlet for people to come during those times. So I think this is going to be, solid. I think this is going to be a good idea. And, if the numbers continue to go like they did today, then that's certainly a reinforcement that we've made a very good decision. So I'm happy about that. And I think it's also important that we remember that it's not Charlie Mullins. It's Charlie Murphy. All right, people, we are on the witching hour. We have hit the end of our 1 hour here together. This has been a great launch morning. It really has. Thank everybody for showing up. I really do appreciate all of you. Cindy Lamb, it's not about strength, and you're in the right place. Cody, doesn't matter. Keep coming back, brother. Keep dusting yourself off. Binge, no binge, whatever. No judgment. We're here to help you. Just keep coming back. That seed's going to take, brother. I promise you it is. If you doubt me, you can ask Mr. Joe Birdwell. He started the exact same way, right? So, and he's into month 3. So this is, it's the real deal. Just keep coming back. As long as it doesn't interfere with your school or sleeping, Captain, it's a great idea. Thanks, Miss V. That's a sweet thing to say. I'm not going to let it interfere with my school, I promise. And as far as sleeping goes, no, I will be okay, I promise. Swiss Vapor says, stay sober and stay stable. I love it. Scotch Sonnet says, I do love it here. It's very beautiful. I need to send Captain Tommy some haggis. Oh, Lord, here we go. On that note, Charlie Murphy, thank you for everything. Stacy Michaels. Jacob Forster, you never let me down, man. You really don't. I will be seeing you all this evening. Between now and then, do what Swiss Vapor did, huh? Reach out and try to save somebody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This has been The Lifeboat. Have a good day.